Have you ever been waiting for something and you thought, man, I wish God would just speak to me? I wish he would just tell me what's going on. I wish he'd pull the curtain back and go, let me just tell you how everything's unfolding. I mean, we live in a time that makes it so hard to wait, don't we? I mean, we live in an instant culture. But that instant culture makes it so hard for us to wait. It really does. We don't wait well. But the fact of the matter is, every single person, you and I, all of us are waiting on something, aren't you? What if waiting wasn't something that we kind of grinded our way through, but it really was a gift of God? What if in the waiting, God was gonna tell us something about faith? A God that is an instant God does not require any faith. What if in the waiting, God wanted to reveal something about our heart and our life and our character and our nature that we otherwise wouldn't see or know? What if waiting wasn't something to be ignored or to be pushed back? What if it was something to be invited in and be embraced? The waiting is not wasted if you invite Jesus into the middle of it.
God is at work in your life, maybe even especially in the moments you don't see him, the moments he's not answering the prayer the way that you prayed the prayer. And is it possible that he's actually working all around me, but my eyes aren't seeing it? Is it possible that one of the reasons we miss God's plan is because he's not doing ours? You need to know that it's absolutely normal for God to be doing great things when it looks like he's doing nothing. Let me say this again. It's a big deal. It is absolutely normal for God to be doing unbelievably amazing things in moments that look to us like he's doing nothing. Here's why. If you haven't noticed yet, God doesn't typically tell us his plans. And I don't know why. I don't know if that's because if you and I heard what he was going to do, we would veto it. Or if he told us what we were going to do, we would be terrified. Or we just go, hey, God, you know what? I like your plan pretty well, but could we tweak it a little? And instead, here's what God does. God works in our life and says, okay, I'm going to do this. And sometimes it looks good and sometimes it looks bad, but I'm going to do that. You're not going to know where this is going to go. I'm just going to ask you to live the next moment that I gave you the right way. And when you live that moment well, I'll give you a next. And then I'll give you a next. But you're not going to know where this is going to end up. Which means there's moments when I'm living in a moment that I'm going, God, this is unfair and it's wrong and I don't see you working. And just because God hasn't told you the plan doesn't mean he's not working the plan.
Most of us here would say, I trust God. Most of us here would say, I trust his plan. I believe that he has my best interest in mind. The hard part is, can we trust his timing? Patience and the ability to wait on God suggests that we trust his timing. That's why waiting on God is hard. But you know what's worse than waiting on God? Wishing that you waited on God. That however long you have to wait, it will be worth it because God's timing is perfect. See, we understand timing when it comes to other things in this life. You put cookies in the oven and they're supposed to take 20 minutes and you take them out after 5, they're not ready yet. But when we can't see God working, we grow impatient. We take matters into our own hands and we make a mess because we can't see what he's doing. He's up to something, we just can't see it. So while we wait, we can either make things worse by taking matters into our own hands, or we can allow the wait to build our character. We can allow the wait to grow fruit. We can allow the wait to remind us that he's good. And not only is he good, but that he's trustworthy and that his timing is best.
So there is a power in waiting. And I want you to understand very clearly, waiting it's a time to do a few things. Waiting is a time to become. Waiting is a time to evolve. Waiting is a time to develop. Waiting is a time to learn. Waiting is a time to grow. So you're not just doing nothing while you're waiting. You're becoming, you're evolving, you're developing, you're learning, you're growing, you're healing, you're maturing, you're gaining perspective, you're growing in wisdom, you're being educated, your discernment is being sharpened. There are so many different things that start happening while you're waiting. That's why you can't rush that process. You can't rush maturity. Anybody who's great never became great overnight. That's why slow success builds your character. Quick success builds your ego. God knows exactly what he's doing, and he is pacing you to be able to safely handle the blessing that he's about to bring you into. But in life, it's not that the events get easier as you get older. It's that you get wiser and you get stronger. When you work out in the gym, if you've been lifting a certain weight, it'll feel like the weight has gotten easier now. The weight has not gotten easier. It's the same. You've gotten stronger. You see, God's building strength in us. So if you go in and do the same thing every day, you don't even realize that strength is happening until one day you go in and what you started off struggling, shaking to lift, now you can pump it. You start with that. You start with that. It's not that the weight got lighter, you got stronger. And so that's what God does over time. He's strengthening us. Now there's a man by the name of Ronald Wayne. Some people don't know him, and there's a reason that they don't know him. But he was one of the co-founders of Apple, along with Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Well, let me tell you what happened. Ronald Wayne got impatient. And so back in the 1970s, late 1970s, he said, man, you know what? I know I'm one of the co-founders of Apple here, but man, I need my money. He sold his 10% stake in Apple back in the late 1970s. Guess how much? $800. You know, $800 for 10% of Apple. Today, that stock would have been worth $200 billion. Are you understanding the power of waiting now? But you've got to be able to have the big picture, the long view in mind, or else you'll sell your birthright for a bowl of beans. You've got to be able to see the big picture. You've got to be able to see the big picture.
Maybe it's possible that God is delaying whatever it is in your life simply because he has something bigger he wants to do. I don't always know why God isn't on time. I don't know why sometimes he doesn't show up when we want him to. But I can tell you this. I know that he loves you. I know that you can trust him and you can continue to believe him in the meantime.
Yeah.